We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
Hey, welcome to the Supernatural Hour podcast. I am your host, Raven.
This is Chad.
And this is Emmett.
Our main topic today is clowns.
All right. Clowns. What a fun genre to be talking about for Supernatural Hour.
It is supernatural. Just wait. So, Emmett, do you or anyone you know have a fear of clowns?
I wouldn't call it a fear. I don't have a fear of clowns, but because of popular culture in the last 30 years, they've kind of been getting a bum rap. What really opened my eyes, I don't know if you've seen any of these American Horror Stories series on TV, but the one, I think it was the first one they did, was about the freak show in Florida. Did you see that one?
You know, I never watched any of that series.
It was my wife was just so into it. So I thought I'd watch this, and I kind of got sucked into it. They had a clown in this that was just the most horrifying horror character I've ever seen. This clown was just scared the crap out of me.
Is it the one with the big smile, the prosthetic smile?
Twisty?
Yeah,
Twisty
he
the
wore a
crowd?
mask. Yeah, because he like blew his mouth off trying to commit suicide or something when he was young. So yeah. it was really, oh my gosh. That's the kind of thing you watch that and it sticks with you for decades.
Right. No, I'm not scared of clowns. They're not my thing. I can be rather introverted, and just to me, they're too loud. They're too over the top. They're too colorful. Not that I don't like color, but I think I like things quieter and more subdued.
A little more muted.
Yeah. If I always joke, if you know a castle, he just stole all of the outgoingness and charisma and left me with nothing. I'm older. I guess maybe I just didn't know what it was. I figured, we'll let him have it. I don't know what the deal is, but I don't know. It's just clowns to me are just too, the energy is just too much. And so they're just not my thing, but I'm not scared of them. But there's a name. If you have a clown phobia, it's called chlorophobia. Did you know that? I didn't. I mean, I figured there was a word for it. There's a word for everything.
And I saw something, and it's like the fear of stilts. Is that weird? Because I guess clowns were on stilts.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I thought
So what if
that's a strange...
What if you're scared of stilts but not clowns?
Well,
or vice
that's
versa?
still all called chlorophobia, I guess.
Interesting.
From what I saw on the YouTube documentaries.
So let's go back to the beginning. The very beginning that we know of clowns.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to start from the beginning and work forward.
This sounds like a Sound of Music song.
I'm not going to sing it. I'm listening to it.
Now, let me interject here.
Okay.
Isn't like the clown that most of us are familiar with, circus type clowns, isn't that pretty much an American thing?
Yeah, actually it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I mean, the European tradition is more like a mime or something, right? Or,
Exactly. Well, they say that the first clowns that they really know of, and that there might be more, but are from Rome and Greece.
They even go back into Egypt in some of them.
Well, I was actually just thinking, back into Egypt, you see the pictures depicting, the women doing back handspring things. Yeah, I think there's always been some sort of a, hey, let's entertain, the upper
Harlequin
class.
type thing. Or,
Exactly.
yeah.
But in the Roman Greece ones, they were portrayed as more like just the goofy village idiot, just kind of being silly. So then fast forward to medieval times and to kind of the jester, and even, minstrels, just a form of entertainment. And the thing that they said about the jesters is, even though they were just lowly, court performers, they were the only people that could get away with making fun of royalty, because it was all done in fun and, kind of thought of as roasting, what we would call it now. And then, over time, they did kind of evolve, and each country took their own little thing. Like you said, Emmett, the French kind of took clowns, as the mimes, your stereotypical white face, painted with black eyes.
Wait,
and
let me do my mime.
striped.
Let me do my mime impression.
Okay. That was really bad.
That's spot on. Spot on.
Did you try to get out of the box?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. I could see you. Okay, that's better. And to me, I don't know. Mimes to me aren't clowns, but I get where they kind of fit in the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said that there wasn't really any talk of evil clowns or, any sort of nefarious kind of activity clowns until the 1970s, which is incredibly recent.
Right. But going back just a little bit further back into the medieval area, the clowns, they were the peasants. And when I say the peasants, they were the people that could express themselves that way, make commentary into the hierarchy and royalty and those kinds of things, and get it without the repercussions of speaking your mind. They could kind of do it. It's like, well, they were doing that in jest.
Right. And, it was all, entertainment and fun. And, they didn't have Netflix and chill back in the day. They didn't have
radio, TV,
internet. I mean, they had nothing. They had people that would dress up silly and act goofy.
Yeah. And so it was colorful and entertaining and different than what you would see in your everyday life. And so it was unique and fun. You think of like the Punch and Judy show with the puppets and the colors and the things there. It was, what can you do to help bring entertainment into a world that didn't have a whole lot of entertainment?
Well, and I think it's interesting because as I was researching this, the term slapstick came from clowns because they would have these sticks. There's like two sticks, like a clacker kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. With two boards with a hinge.
Mm-hmm. And they would actually whack people on the butt. And it was part of the entertainment.
And then it would make a lot of extra noise because of the way that the slapsticks worked.
Because they were sticks and slapped.
And they were clackers, And
So the physical comedy grew out of all this too.
Yeah. So when you hear slapstick comedy, that actually came from the jesters, or it's basically a clown thing.
Yeah, slapsticks.
Right. And then before we jump into the 1970s where the evil clowns kind of come out, clowns, as far as, like in the circus, it was serious business. People would go to clown school. They'd go to clown college and they would learn how to be a clown and they would learn how to apply makeup.
Yeah. There's like a clown university where you register your face paint.
Yeah. You
can't use other clowns' face paint things. They're trademarked.
Yeah. You'd have
Clowns used to get my daughter really upset when she was little, and I used to tell her that that she had a paid scholarship at clown college when she got out of high school. So.
Yeah, but it was a serious business, and these people took it very seriously.
Well, and there was money to be made at it with entertaining and with, birthday parties and opening of businesses. You think of Ronald McDonald. You think of, who is the other clown?
There's Bozo.
Bozo, and on the Howdy Doody show. I mean, clowns were a big part of world culture. Part of them came about in the circus, and kind of that idea of the circus clown that became very popular. But one of the things that the circus clowns would do, they entertain between acts, because it took a little while to set up the animal acts.
Right.
And so the clowns would come out and entertain, and again, filling that niche of entertainment to keep people involved during a transition.
And it's perfect for a circus because circus is all about entertainment, and it's about over the top, and it's about, the noise and the, looking at everything. And I didn't watch this documentary for this particular podcast for research, but it's something that I saw many, many years ago. But it was some documentary back in the day on TV. When I say TV, I mean, it wasn't Netflix, it wasn't YouTube. It was 100 years ago when you just had, 3 channels. But it was about the Barnum and Bailey Ringling Brothers clowns. And, I was very impressed because I thought the clowns at the time, I thought it was just, you put on some silly clothes, you paint your face, you go out and you do zany stuff. But that's when I found out about the university, and I thought, wow, their face is trademarked, their outfit is trademarked. They learn how to do actual magic, and they learn how to do these actual tricks and be
There
silly.
were people that actually made real clown shoes.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whole business.
Yeah, and like the real ones are worth money, and the fake clown shoes are not. It blew me away when I discovered that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole industry, and they're especially pre-1980s, kind of that time where the evil clown started coming in.
Right. Well, and my dad would take Castle and I to Ringling Brothers Circus up in Salt Lake every year. It was kind of one of the things that he did. And I remember going and, loving when the clowns came out. You know, again, it wasn't my thing. It wasn't like, oh, if I could just have a stuffed clown in my bedroom. But while you were there and while you were waiting for the next act, they were entertaining. They were fun.
They're keeping the energy up.
I quite enjoyed them. You know, they were silly and
A little zany, did crazy
happy.
things, and
Yeah, I mean,
magic and fire, and
you don't really get the sad ones at the circus, and you know, the evil ones. At least
back then.
at least that you know of. We'll come to that in a minute. But no, I mean, clowns, I think, for their time and purpose, had a definite place. But then we hit the 1970s, and things took a turn.
That's about the time when we started seeing 20 clowns getting out of a tiny little car.
Right?
There's something
Not
paranormal going on there.
Well, see-
Not quite right there.
There's a portal in that tiny little car.
It concerns me a little bit because 1970s are when clowns went mad, and 1970s is when I appeared on the scene. So I don't know. Maybe it had something.
There's
to
a
do with
correlation?
There
It's
could
your
be.
fault.
I know. There's a correlation. Sorry, clown world. Okay, no. So in the 1970s, the first time. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I need to take one step back. So, kind of the last thing we talked about was the French mimes, right? And then they came, like the American clowns were more what you see, which was kind of the hobo, the sad hobo kind of clowns. And they're not all sad, but just kind of think hobo.
The
That
Emmett
red
Kelly
skeleton.
thing. Yeah.
Yep. And then, but you see clowns, you would, in some of the old literature that were kind of, they weren't evil, but they were kind of bad, kind of, I don't know,
A
mischievous.
little dark and mysterious.
A little dark. So Edgar Allan Poe has a short story called Hop Frog, which came out in 1849. And it has a clown in it that's, you know, kind of going the way of evil clown, but not quite.
Was that Poe or Dickens?
That was Poe.
It was Poe.
And then Charles Dickens
Okay.
had one called The Pickwick Papers. And about the same time, there was a French fellow who wrote something, and I was going to write it down, and I didn't, and I couldn't find it again. But there's some French dude that did something about the same time with kind of a bad clown. So if you know who that is or can find who that is, let me know. We'll throw it up when we put this up on YouTube. So the bad clowns, evil clowns, did start to happen kind of that mid 19th century.
Yeah, 1850s-ish. There was it Joseph Grimaldi?
Grimaldi.
Grimaldi, yeah. In the, clowns back in Europe, he was kind of there, and they had, that story also had, I believe, the clown that murdered his wife and her lover or something like that in that story. So you start getting into a little bit of dark nature in some of these clowns, but we hadn't got to the killer clowns from outer space kind of thing of
Right.
the later
1970s.
70s.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot about those two, so I had to throw those in. So in the 1970s, there was the kind of the humorous comedy magazine called National Lampoon. Do you remember this?
Grew up on that.
Yeah. And that's the first time that people know of where the two words evil and clown came together, because they had a couple stories called Evil Clowns. And so that's when they first kind of pop up.
Wow. So we can blame the National Lampoon.
Yes.
And
Yep.
Willard Scott, the weatherman. He was the first Ronald McDonald.
Right.
And that goes way back. And again, back to the commercialization of clowns. And I remember in Provo, where I grew up, there was a Dee's restaurant, and it had a clown, the Deeber clown, as one of the big things. Clowns were such a big marketing
They actually used
phenomenon.
to. I remember the D's company would actually send people out dressed as that to do kids' parties.
Yeah.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
Holy cow! I must be the same age as you, Chad.
Yeah, I think we are.
So, well, yeah, and the thing about clowns is, just with their trademark looks, the idea, like, the McDonald's clown, since we brought it up, if you think about it, the McDonald's clown has looked the same forever, more or less. I mean, I'm sure
The
if
very
you think
first
about-
one was not, and there's been some stylization over the
right? But
the decades. But
I can show you a clown, and you can go, oh, that's Ronald McDonald.
exactly.
It doesn't change, and I can show you a picture of Bozo, and you go, oh, that's Bozo.
Branding.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, So 1970, National Lampoon comes out with their evil clowns. Well, 1978, John Wayne Gacy.
And who is John Wayne Gacy?
So John Wayne Gacy is a serial killer. Maybe we'll talk about him further down the road. But John Wayne Gacy was a clown. I mean, he was actually a very successful person. He managed 4 or 5 Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises. Was married, had a family, but he would do this little side gig and be a clown, and he had his trademark look, and he ended up killing...
It was like 36 adolescents between 9 and 20, I think.
Yeah,
boys.
When parents found out that he was out doing, kids' parties, dressed up like a clown, that freaked him out.
Making balloon animals.
Yeah, and so it's kind of from him where the really bad killer clowns, sprung up. That's where.
So he was the first mass murderer clown.
Yeah, and I don't know, because this isn't a John Wayne Gacy podcast, so we didn't research him a lot. I'm not sure if it was, if the clown was his cover, or he just happened to be a clown and they found out and they just kind of got put together because it's unusual.
I think he used it as a tool, not for all of the murders. He's also a contractor later, and one of the ways they found him was a 16, 17-year-old boy had been approached by him to do a construction job at a pharmacy where he had been doing another construction job at, and he asked his mother if he could go interview with them, and she said yeah, and the boy never came back, and so they put it together from there. But so it wasn't always a direct clown thing in which he did the murders with, but that was one of the tools in his serial killer tool bag that he used to lure people in.
Wasn't his MO, but it was a tool.
Yeah, he didn't do it every time, but it was one of the things that he would do to
meet people and bring people in. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he was, as you talked about earlier, he was well respected in the community. Part of the thing is anybody made, kind of claims that maybe something was a little hinky with him. Oh, it can't be him. He's, boy, he's on the city council and he does this and he got a business
the Kentucky
and he
Fried Chicken.
And he was, he represented himself above board and, a churchgoer and all of these things. And so that threw a lot of suspicion off of him when there were a few, accusations and things that there had been, there could have been problems.
Right.
He leaned on a stellar reputation to bail himself out.
Oh, yeah. And in my mind, I haven't done years and years of research, but to me, he is the quintessential evil clown. And from him have spawned, like we talked about, Twisty from American Horror Story. And the actor that played the clown Twisty also played John Wayne Gacy in a documentary about John
Same
Wayne Gacy.
actor?
Same actor.
The same actor.
Wow.
It's
Typecast.
I know, right? It's like, hey. And then everyone knows the movie It.
Oh, yeah.
Pennywise?
Yep, I have not seen It.
I have.
I bet that takes a lot of the blame for the scary clown phenomenon, too.
And one movie before It that brought kind of the creepy clown into the clown genre was Poltergeist, with the clown puppet that attacked the little boy in Poltergeist. Because that was just shortly after the John Wayne Gacy murders had been discovered and before It.
It, yeah.
So, but starting to get to that idea of the evil clown and, why clowns start freaking us out. And if you watched Poltergeist and saw that movie in the original Poltergeist, it was pretty terrifying, especially for kids.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I don't know, I don't have a fear of clowns. They don't, like I said earlier, I'm not scared of them. They're just not my thing. And my daughter and I recently found this fantastic antique store locally. That's where a lot of your money is going to be going, just so you know. You rolled his eyes. I'm just kidding. But in it is one of these where each little room in the building is
Themed?
well, it's themed. I think it's owned. You rent it out.
Oh, okay.
like someone goes and I don't want to rent a whole building because I don't have that much stuff. But
Oh,
I'm
it's
You
gonna-
like
rent a cubicle and
Yeah.
put your stuff in, and
like a
consignment.
consignment store.
Yeah, so you've got your room, and one of the rooms has creepy dolls in it. And as you know, I like creepy dolls. I buy them for Halloween. But in this room, they're kind of the big Punch and Judy-esque dolls.
Mhm.
Kind of the, what is her name? From Mr. Rogers. Lady Elaine.
Okay.
The creepy Lady Elaine doll type. And they're creepy. And I got to that room, and it wasn't so much the clown dolls themselves. It wasn't like, oh, there's clown dolls. Don't want to go in the room. I don't know if just the creepiness of the clown dolls has attracted a negative spirit. I talked to the owner, and I said, I don't know what it is about that doll room, but I said, I don't even want to go in there. And he's like, oh, that's my room. I'm like, sorry, but there's something creepy back there. And I said, next time I come, I'm bringing my ghost hunting equipment, and we're going to see what's up with that room. And he was totally cool about it. But those dolls that are back there, they're a little creepy. I don't know that I like them. Next time I go, maybe I'll take a picture and we'll post it up somewhere on TikTok or something.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what we talked about previously with masks and dolls and different things and spirits inhabiting or being around them and why they do. So,
What's worse than a creepy clown or a creepy doll? A creepy clown doll.
Exactly. We're going to get there, actually. So there was a study done a few years ago where they interviewed and talked to like almost 300 children, and these children were little. Yeah, I mean, not too little, but little enough that they hadn't seen it, and they hadn't seen Twisty, and they hadn't seen Poltergeist.
right.
They weren't aware of scary clowns. And all of them just had a fear of clowns. And some of the ideas that, the scientists that, performed the study said was that clowns are, if you look at a monster, if you look at a werewolf or a Frankenstein, it's so far from human that, you can kind of separate, it's scary, but it's not human. But clowns are so human-like, and, they said that just anything that's just a little bit off from the norm can be very, very unsettling.
Yeah, because you can't read their emotions because of the face paints and the different things, but you know that it's a person there, but you can't really tell what's going on because of, the way that their facial expressions are, because they're painted on literally.
Right, they're just a little off, and they said also because they're very unpredictable. You don't know when you're going to get squirted with water out of a flower on their shirt. You don't know if, when they're going to squeeze their honky nose, and just the unpredictability is mostly what scares people.
So how did we get from that to like characters like the Joker on Batman? And
Just kind of a spinoff. They're clown
Really?
spinoffs.
they've just taken it and gone totally evil with it.
Right. And again, it's the same thing. It's the, we're going to put a lot of makeup on you. You're going to be unpredictable. You're going to be scary because you're kind of human, but, you're mostly human, but just a little off. And
Yeah, and if you look at the 65, 66, 67 Batman, Joker, Riddler, they were criminals, criminal masterminds, but they weren't the pure evil. When you think about them, they weren't like Heath Ledger's version of the Joker.
that was a creepy one.
And how he did it. And I thought, it was a great performance and very, very scary. But again, you kind of go back to that, the Batman in the 60s.
TV show was
Yeah.
campy. It wasn't supposed to be frightening. It was supposed to be
Campy
action
and fun
yeah,
and crazy like clowns are.
Yeah, kind of the original purpose
like a
of
comic
clowns.
book.
Right.
It literally was a comic book on TV.
And you knew that they were criminals, but they weren't that personification of evil like you get into Pennywise and
Well, and you go into any haunted house now, and there's some sort of a clown element in that haunted house. I mean, even in our Indian Hills horror that we promote heavily, there's a clown or two there. I've gone into paid haunted houses where there's clown rooms or clowns painted in the hallway, and it's become very much a part of the horror genre.
Yep. Yeah, they're not just the occasional maybe they're sad or there's depressed or there's something going on, but they've got into the actual, they're a personification of evil.
Right. You open up the monster book and there's werewolf, vampire, clown.
Yep. So as I was researching this, because we are a supernatural / paranormal podcast, I thought, okay, let's see if we can find a paranormal angle here. And I found two. I found two paranormal things, which I think are kind of cool. And I'm not saying that's all there is, but these are the two that I found. So
What you got?
first one, back in the day, and based on the pictures, I'm going to say, 1800s when cameras first came out. They're black and white, kind of have that old
Sepia tone look.
Yeah, that old, very first photograph kind of a look to it. But the Pueblo Indians would dress in kind of a clown-like costume. Maybe not clowns like we think of it, but, just dressed goofy. Maybe, not their normal ceremonial robes, but jester, zany, goofy kind of costumes. And as they were in these costumes and the dances they would perform, the whole idea was they let go of their own personalities and open themselves up to be possessed by spirits. And there wasn't a whole lot of other information about that, but I found that to be interesting.
But that gets kind of back into, where we talk about the idea of not inviting things in the summoning, because you don't really know what you're going to get. But in this case, they'd actually be opening themselves up for those kinds of things in these rituals.
Yeah, and that was the intent. It
Right.
wasn't let's dance, let's dress like this and dance and oh hey we got possessed. No, it's like we want to open ourselves up.
Well, there's parallels to that in other cultures too. I know in Southeast Asia, I think they have festivals where thousands of people gather hoping to be overtaken by some kind of spirit, right? Some kind of yearly thing.
I think you can see some of that in some of the Pentecostal Christian beliefs also. Where the speaking in tongues and those types of things. So, it's a little, I don't know how to say mainstream, but it's a little more common even maybe in some Western beliefs and traditions than we might think.
You get enough people together and weird things can happen.
And there's me. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I have a hard time controlling myself. I don't need anybody else in there trying to do weird shit. Oh, I'm sorry. Weird stuff.
One of those things got in, apparently.
I said a swear, sorry. So the other thing is, I'm sure many of you have heard of this. If you watch Ghost Adventures, they've actually been there. I wouldn't mind going here at some point because I think it would be fun. But in Tonopah, Nevada, there is a hotel called the Clown Hotel. Have you guys heard of this?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of Tonopah.
We are so going there.
Yeah, I have heard of the Clown Motel. I don't know if it's motel or hotel.
I'm sure it's a motel.
The doors are on the outside with clowns painted on them. It's kind of garish. And I've seen pictures of like the office, and you go into the office and there's just clown dolls everywhere. I don't know if they're for sale or just,
Just there to creep you out?
just because it's the Clown Motel, so it's their, their decor. But yeah, it's creepy.
There's
and-
no way I would buy anything from there and take it home.
Oh, no.
That's just asking for trouble.
Nope. See, I love antiques, and I have to be very careful buying antiques and bringing them home because you don't want to bring stuff with you. But apparently, near this hotel, there is a graveyard, and there's a lot of miners that died in a fire, and they're buried in this graveyard that's just literally, from my understanding, very nearby, like next door or across the
Close to
street
the
or
hotel.
something, very close. And when asked, the owner said, they said, what's the most scary thing or the most, standout paranormal experience that has happened at this hotel? And he said that a man woke up and there was a clown ghost in his room. And I thought, yeah,
Wow.
that would be creepy. That would be super creepy. I've not watched the Ghost Adventures episode where they go to the Clown Motel, because at some point I got very disheartened with the whole Ghost Adventures franchise and stopped watching it. And so I don't know exactly what they had happen when they were there. Apparently Zach is terrified of ghosts. or ghosts,
Clowns?
clowns. And so he was kind of facing his fears. He told the owner that he was chlorophobic. Is he? Did he just do that for the show? I don't know. But I think that would be fantastic.
Well, there's a life-size clown mannequin in the lobby, and I know Zach actually saw an arm move on it once, and other people have seen this same clown mannequin move also.
Yes, I've heard that the clown doll moves. And that in and of itself, it doesn't matter what genre the doll is. If a doll moves, it's creepy.
Yep.
Can you say Annabelle?
I was just going to say it could be a Raggedy Ann doll. It could be,
Your
Anne of
Barbie.
Green Gables. It could be a Barbie. It can be a clown. If the doll moves on its own, that's creepy.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
we're at
Well, we've
41.
got to go there one day.
We do. That would be because
It's practically our backyard.
I know. I was going to say Tonopah is not very far. And we'll have to see how close it is. Maybe we could do Tonopah and Pioche. How close are those?
I think they're a ways away, but Area 51, I believe, is in the area too.
Of Tonopah?
Uh-huh.
We're going road tripping.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's the extraterrestrial, motels there too. Maybe one night in the Clown Hotel and one in the extraterrestrial hotel.
Oh, I'm not sleeping in the Clown Hotel. I'm not scared of clowns, but I saw pictures of the Clown Hotel, and it looks a little bit like a dive.
Nobody that stays there sleeps.
It looks too much like camping for my taste.
Raven is not a camper, for all of you out there who don't know this.
No, camping.
They'd
is
leave the
like-
porch light on for you, but it burned out, so it ain't gonna happen.
Camping for me is like a Motel 6. Ew. Okay. So, anything more on clowns before we move on?
I think that's it. I don't have anything else on clowns other than, I do. In 2016, there was a
Oh,
bunch
yeah.
of clown sightings,
This is right in the middle of my paper.
and you missed it.
Oh,
I
I remember
know.
this. I remember this.
And there were
Yeah.
some that go back to 2014, but in 2016 there were lots of clown sightings of, people would be driving down the road and there would be clowns, some of them with knives and things in.
Just randomly on the side of the road, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and most of that it's pretty well understood. It wasn't paranormal, but it was a social phenomenon. It was, put out on the internet, and kids would do this to creep people out. And I'm just surprised that more people didn't get killed.
I mean, the
Because
clowns.
The clowns, because I'll tell you what, if, a clown, came up to me and had a machete and I had a gun, the clown, would probably be dead, and you take the mask off and it's a 16-year-old kid thinking he's having a good time, you know. And I can relate to that. I had an experience when I was about 14, shortly before Halloween, where I had got this really creepy old man mask, and I wasn't a very big guy at the time, but I put on some shoulder pads and a big coat, and I walked around a little bit in the neighborhood. And I remember one situation where a friend of mine, they had a trampoline in the backyard, and I came around the corner and their little brother was there jumping on the trampoline, and I just kind of went, "Ugh," and he turned and saw me and just screamed because the little feet kicking on, in the air in the trampoline. He couldn't get out of there quick enough. And I ran off, and it was really pretty funny, so I understand the idea of the scaring of people with something like that. And I ran out and hid in the field while he went in and got his brothers, and they came out looking for me, and I was, stayed very, very silent.
Hey, Silent Dawn. It started at a young age.
I waited until they went away, and then I snuck out because I might have got beat up pretty good.
I agree with you. I see the fun in doing it, but we watched several YouTube videos where they'd recorded these, and some of them you could tell were actual recordings, like they were recording other things, and these clowns jumped out, and you could tell that these people were actually afraid and actually scared. And then there's the dumb people where it's like, are you guys actors from a really bad horror movie? Because they got away. You could tell that they were scared of this clown, and then the girl is like, turn around and go back. And I'm like, this is how you get killed in horror movies, lady. You don't turn around and go back. But then some of them you could tell that they were set up.
They were staged, right?
You know,
A
because
lot
it's
of them.
like,
Trying to get YouTube clicks. And,
yeah,
and
it's like, why would you be filming walking your dog? Let's go for a walk, Fido. Let's film our
in the
walk.
dark. And I've got my...
Oh, wow, there's a clown. Oh, I'm so scared. Yeah, some of them were just like, oh my gosh, this is
Well,
so
that reminds me of all these Russian paranormal clips, right? Where they just happen to be speaking English, right?
Right.
You're going to get more clicks if you're speaking English than if you're speaking Russian. And they're just out filming their dog or something, but they're speaking English. And yeah, it's pretty suspect.
Yeah. But then the ones that I thought were the creepiest were there were kids that would just dress up like clowns and go stare at your Ring doorbell. They wouldn't do anything, that, you know, no jump scares. They would just go stare at your doorbell. That's pretty creepy.
And you'd see it on the video feed, or you'd see, yeah.
Yeah.
So there are some interesting YouTube videos out there on clowns and these kinds of things. Like I say, I think a lot of that 2016 clown phenomena was, you know, manufactured social media stuff. Stunts, you know, kids fooling around. But there were a lot of people that were literally terrified of it because they didn't know what's going on. You know, somebody walks at you and you can't see their face, you can't tell who they are, and they flash a machete or a knife. Don't do it in Texas. You could get shot.
Yeah, really, it's for better or worse. I mean, you know, clowns they're in the list of monsters now and creepy stuff, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're stuck with it.
And we saw another one, which was absolutely a fun one for someone that was doing scares. It was like dressed up like the nun from the Conjuring movie, The Nun. And there was a guy filming the nun going around and just kind of popping into people's view on a public street during the day, you know, and just getting the jump. And that's kind of fun. People do things and kind of like that kind of fun. That's why we go to haunted houses. That's why we do things, because it's kind of fun to be a little bit scared. It's not fun to be terrified.
Right. And it's not fun if you're truly scaring people out in the woods and they shoot you and you die. So be careful how you scare people.
Yeah, so we don't recommend that. That was the last thing I had.
Well, that's it for us tonight. Stay spooky, my haunty friends.
Hey, have a great night.
We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network, found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright by Advanced Paranormal Services.